Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I've had to select from a cornucopia of talent within the Acsom contributor list, and we've got Lawrence Conley dialing all the way in from the Skylark. I had someone approaching me last week, Lawrence, asking me, where is the Skylark? They want to come for a pint. And we also have Liam Carrigan dialing in with the best jersey yet, I've got to say, all the way from Japan. It's all smiles. Even though we got beat at the weekend, it's all smiles, and we will dig into the reasons behind it. But before we do that, Liam, talk us through that jersey, mate. Is it a goalie top?
Yeah, it's a Mexico goalie top. It's actually it's a recent one. It's from 2022. It was part of a range that Adidas did, which was sort of a 90s homages. So you might have seen previously, there's an Argentina one that I've got. It's a kind of weird purple and blue pattern. This is the Mexico one. There's a Germany one, which is modelled on Bodo Illner's shirt from Italia 90, which is quite nice as well. So there's a whole range of them, but this one was the one I managed to pick up last week. So
it's a cracker, I've got to say. Now, I'm going to start off with a look ahead to tonight's game, Lawrence, because obviously there's been loads of chat in and around the VAR decision at the weekend and the incompetence and the fact that Brendan Rodgers has called it out again, choosing his words wisely. But let's take a look ahead first to the game against Aberdeen tonight and have a look at how we're going to line up. We'll get stuck right into that first of all, Lawrence. Talk me through your team and your reasons behind any additions or anyone dropping out.
So I think we just go with the strongest team. For me, Schmeichel, AJ, Cameron Carpenter's trusty, and Schlupp. I think we looked a lot better at the weekend when Schlupp come on.
Yeah.
I don't know if Greg's head's maybe going a wee bit, he's trying to sort out his future. He's got a young family. Hopefully Celtic can get a deal that will sign and will stay. But if not, I think he's been an absolute cracking servant for the club. He's going to leave with a barrel full of medals and probably with everybody's best wishes. But yeah, he would drop out tonight for me and we'd get Schlupp in. Midfield, Engels, Kalmak and Rio. And up front, Maeda through the middle and Jota and Kuhn on the wings.
Right, interesting, because you're going for the team that finished the game, aren't you, at Easter Road, Lawrence, which was the same team that started against Bayern Munich the previous week. And I think that it is the strongest team. I agree with you. You opened up by saying play your strongest side. That's something that Jungle Lion always says when he comes into the comments, and I'm pretty sure we'll see Jungle Lion at some point over the next hour or so. Listen, yesterday we spoke a wee bit about Greg Taylor, the fact that Schlupp should start the game and probably start right till the end of the season. I was accused of bashing Greg Taylor. I'm not bashing him, but what I would say is this. I disagree with you, Lawrence. I think it's gone beyond getting him to stay now. I do think that. I get the feeling, and it's not based on one performance against Hibs or one half against Hibs, and I agree he's had great service to this football club, and he will leave with a wheelbarrow load of medals. But I do think, my feeling is it's time for him to move on. I just think he's at the end of his cycle, Lawrence.
It could be time for him to move on. Listen, if he stays, he's staying as a backup left back. Is he still good enough for a backup left back? Is what he would be doing the same role as Tony Ralston does on the other side. I think he's still good enough for a backup left back. How much would be willing to spend an offer based on that per week? Precisely. Maybe it's something that Brendan will say, actually, I've got young Montgomery still in the books. He's out on loan. We might be better off using him as the backup left back. It'd be great to see Schlupp coming in full term, but he would need to take a pay cut. What's he on 60 at Crystal Palace? Even if he takes a pay cut, it'd be an awful lot of money because he'd be back up to KT, and I don't think we'd pay somebody £30 a week to be a backup. So I think with Schlupp, it's looking like he's not going to be the backup left back. So I think he'll move on. But listen, if Greg moves on, hopefully he leaves with everybody's best wishes, mate. He must have some record of winning medals and trebles for a player, in the time he's been here.
And he's got plenty of time to go in his career. He's only 27 once. He's got plenty of time to go.
He's got a young family. There's obviously clubs in America and Croatia interested in him. So I've no doubt he would get more money elsewhere. If it was all about money, I'm pretty sure he'd get more money than Celtic are going to offer him.
Well, I think you're right, but I also understand why the club wouldn't offer him anything that would take him into that kind of top bracket, because he is, in effect, going to be a backup. We're bringing Katie in as a first choice, aren't we? So, not just the money, just the lack of game time. He's played a lot of games for Celtic over the last 4 seasons.
Brendan might look at it. We're always on about youth development and having a long-term planning. Brendan might actually look at it and say, well, look, for a backup, can't pay that. But also, does that stop another young player coming through? Who can I put out at left back? Who could get some games as cover? Could Dane Murray cover out there? Get a wee bit more experience when we need cover. I know Dane's a centre-half, but could we try him at left back for it?
No, I wouldn't play him out of position, because he needs games, he needs confidence. But I get what you mean. There's no one obvious coming through as a problem. You mentioned
Montgomery, but he's looking like he might not make it, isn't he? He's been out on loan a few times.
Exactly. Perennially out on loan. I don't know, if he's going to have made an impact, he would have made it by now, in my view. So, you know what? I think you're right in what you say about Schlupp. I don't know what he's on, but at the end of his contract, he's on 0. He's 32 years of age, and it might be the best offer on the table for someone of that age, because he's past his prime at that stage, and he might want 3 years or a couple of years at Celtic. So that's my take on it, Liam, and it isn't anything personal, even though people have levied that at me. I don't have a personal issue against Greg Taylor. I just think that it's shown, particularly in the last wee while, but not just the Hibs game. You look at him getting hooked at halftime against Borussia Dortmund. His performance in Champions League was questionable time and time again. So I do think it's time for him to go. Schlupp gets the nod, not just tonight for me, Liam, but for the rest of this season. What's your take on it? Lawrence is saying, bring someone up, get someone through the graduate of the academy, but there's no one obvious. I know there's a couple of guys out at the moment playing first-team football. We've seen some bit part performances in the pre-season, but really in terms of in the here and now, Tierney's not playing 50 games next season. You're going to need someone to step in and probably play 25 to 30 games at left back.
Yeah, well, I hope that something can be worked out for Schlupp to stay beyond the summer. Like Lawrence said, he's a free agent. If he has ambition to continue playing at the highest level, he stays at Celtic because he's going to get Champions League football. If he just wants one more big payday, he'll go to America or China or something, or Saudi Arabia. Basically being a average level English Premier League player is probably enough to get my move to Saudi if he wanted it, if it was just money. But if he actually, again, the money that he's on just now, he's probably set up for life already anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a question of, if he's one of these guys who's thinking, how much do I need? Right, I've got enough, so I'll just focus on the football now. It's Celtic. If he's thinking, how much can I get? If it's the more, dare I say it, capitalist approach, he goes to Saudi or he goes to China or he goes where the money is. And because I don't see him getting a big money move back in England. I don't think anybody in the Premier League's going to pay $60,000 a week for him.
No.
And it's kind of the inverse of that with Greg Taylor. Look, Greg Taylor has been a magnificent servant for Celtic in the time. He's seen off plenty of other would-be left backs.
Absolutely.
And Schlupp is the first one that's come in that's really convinced me that he's actually an upgrade.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, Greg Taylor deserved credit for that, because every time a new guy has come in, he has stepped his game up a wee bit to stay ahead of the pack. But
is he seen off as many left backs as Brendan Rodgers has seen off Rangers managers, Liam?
Not quite. No, not quite. But we'll come to that later, right? I literally have a whole script written up on that on Acsom.net. But the point is that Taylor is at that point now where he could go somewhere else and get more money, but Celtic going the other way could get a better left back for less money if we shopped outside of the UK.
Yeah.
So
and
it doesn't really make sense for either party for Greg Taylor to stay, unfortunately.
Nah, I agree with that. And it is, as I say, based on performance and just where he is, at this point of his career. I think so. Yeah, and I think he peaked under Ange Postecoglou, Liam. Absolutely. That attack kind of style of football suited him, because I do think that his issues are in defence. So when he was on the front foot and he's creating spaces and he's running into lanes that are attacking areas of the park, he looks like an inverted. He looks like a midfielder at that point, doesn't he? When he's inverted. So I think he's played his best football for Celtic, and we are going to move into a new era. And I keep going back to this, gents. It's the style of player that Brennan has brought in this year, Jota aside, and you look at Schmeichel and Trusty, Schlupp, Engels, Ida. And it's just, that kind of profile of player when you look at the physicality of them. And I don't think Greg Taylor fits in there. And I think that's with one eye on Europe. How else do you line up tonight, Liam, seeing as we're focusing at the offset, we're focusing on the Aberdeen game this evening. How do you line up?
Well, I'm pretty much in agreement with Lawrence. To quote Michael Corleone, it's nothing personal, it's just business. I think Schlupp is the best option at left back. I think Dyson's the best option at centre forward, just on current form. And, 6 wins the league, right? Starting tonight. So get those 6 games won, and then we can experiment with different formations, maybe bring in a few young players with a view to deciding who stays and who goes in the summer. But right now, the priority is getting those 6 wins on the board as soon as possible. Mm-hmm. And to me, Dyson, Kuhn and Jota as our front three is the best way to get that done as quickly as possible.
Yeah. So 6 wins the league. I honestly didn't realise you rated Barry that highly.
We'll come back. We'll come back to him. I've got to say, though, Liam quite rightly said that he is feverishly scripting blogs for the Acsom blog. The link is underneath this video. It's a very important part of the future happenings of a Celtic State of Mind, and Liam's at the heart of that. He's running the blog, basically. So what happens when you go into there? They ask you to register, don't they, automatically, Liam? Get registered on there, and we'll keep you up to date with everything Acsom related, be that blogging, this type of show, fully produced shows, live events, and everything else that's coming your way at 2025. George, sorry.
From the blogs, see some of those images Liam's come up with. They've got new t-shirts at some point, haven't they?
I know. That's brilliant. Well, the thing is with that, Lawrence, right? You could fall into the trap of just looking like every other blog and using some kind of image that's out there. But actually, you're not allowed to use those images, even though I think most blogs don't have the rights to use them. They do. So we just decided, Liam and I, in a wee chat, that it would be better and a wee bit more colourful and a wee bit more inventive if Liam just AI'd them, which has gone down an absolute storm.
My latest blog, guys, check it out. My latest blog, I have managed to work Mr. T into Celtic in a logical context. It actually does make sense if you read the blog.
Brilliant. I'm just waiting for all the Star Wars stuff to come in. Right, George Nicholson. Hopefully a goal fest tonight. Get off to a good start and play with a swagger. Aberdeen have given us issues at Celtic Park. It's been spoken about over the last couple of days, Lawrence, that's the goals that we've lost in the league at home, and it's against Aberdeen. But obviously their season has kind of fallen off the edge of a cliff. Some people were bold enough to even tip them for second place in the league at one point. But their second half of the season's not been great. They're coming to Celtic Park. Celtic at the moment, and this is something that I'm going to have to take from the weekend as a positive, Lawrence. Celtic are a wounded animal. We don't like getting beat. Brendan Rodgers does not like getting beat, and he'll be wanting to put it right tonight. So when George says that, I don't think that is being arrogant. I just think that's the way Celtic will react to the weekend's performance.
But listen, we had a bad 15 minutes against Aberdeen. Wasn't quite the Aberdeen performance that the press made out with glee. But that being said, I don't think the players will forget it. Losing a 2-0 lead at Celtic Park, they'll feel that they've got something to prove against Aberdeen again. They owe them one. Hibs against the first half, we just didn't turn up. Second half, we kind of know what happened there, don't we? It looked as if we had a bit between our teeth. We got one back, looked like two back. If we get a second, I think we go on and win it. But yeah, we want to get the points back on the board. We don't want to be reading papers about a new manager bouncing as the league back on. And so, yeah, Brendan will be going out, strongest team, get the game done in the first half. And then if he wants you, mess about with the team then. But, 2 or 3 up first half, I think.
Well, I'd agree with that. I think you do start off we're your strongest, and then you can tinker with that as the second half goes on. Talking about the weekend, we will touch on it because you guys haven't had a chance to discuss it. But I think we all accept that we were absolutely rotten in the first half. Brendan Rodgers has spoken about that as well. He wasn't happy with it. He made the changes at half time. And yesterday, what I said, Liam, in relation to that was, you have off days. We've had a couple this season. That isn't the issue. I think the issue is when you want to rest 3 players, as we did at the weekend, that's sometimes what you get. And that just, I think, highlights the lack of depth that we've got at the moment. Now, we're talking about Greg Taylor, and we're all going to have our views and opinions on Greg's future. Let us know in the comments if you agree or disagree with us. But the other 2 guys that came in, who were changed from the Bayern Munich starting 11 were Luke McCowan, of course, and Dada Mida. So let's have a wee chat about them as well, Liam, because Luke McCowan's not really had much of a criticism since he came to Celtic. It's all been very much the honeymoon period for the Celtic fan, come player, and everybody's really chuffed with him and all the rest of it. He's living the dream. But in recent times, there's been a couple of occasions where we looked at his performance and thought, actually, that was miles off it. And he was miles off it at the weekend. Does the depth or lack of concern you somewhat, Liam? I mean, I think in Europe we talk about it a lot. We look at the bench and we think, you know what, we're still 3 or 4 short here of quality players. Does it concern you when we can't get the job done domestically, like it happened at the weekend?
No, not at the moment. If we have another 2 or 3 games like that, I'll be concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's a mixture of European hangover, maybe just being a wee bit too cocky, and Hibs having a very, very good game plan that was ugly to watch at times, but very, very effective. They clearly did their homework on Celtic, and they planned for how they were going to have a go at us, and it worked. It worked for them. No, I think sometimes you just got to sit back and say, look, second half gubbed by a better team. They outplayed us in the first half. No question. Second half, we battered them, and if Dyson's goal stands, I think we're probably going to win the game because momentum was clearly with us at that point. And but going the other way, the goal getting, in my opinion, unfairly knocked off, kind of scunnered the team and sort of killed that momentum. Because after that, did we really create that many more chances? Certainly not as many as we'd created getting up to that point. But in terms of McCowan specifically, I felt, and it's just my opinion, but I felt that taking Ida and Taylor off was because those 2 players were not performing that well.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with McCowan, I think it was more a strategic thing. It was about changing the shape of the midfield. So I don't think that McCowan was playing badly enough to justify being hooked at half-time, but I do think that, in all honesty, on that one game, it just wasn't happening. Ida was not doing the business up front, and Taylor looked shaky and was on a booking. So it made sense to take those 2 off.
And I think who got off really easily is the two centre halves. They didn't like playing against 2 strikers. Trusty sold Taylor for that goal. Where Trusty is. Taylor's turned around and expected to see the centre half inside him, and he's not. It looks like Taylor's miles out of position. Trusty's in the half. You're like, where have you gone, mate? And I think Hibs created so many chances because our 2 centre halves didn't like being up against 2 strikers. They didn't quite know how to handle it, which led to Hibs winning a lot of second balls. So I get that Taylor was on a booking, and probably a good idea to take him off. Wasn't playing his best, but Trusty sold him out for that goal. Sung him out to dry there.
Listen, I agree with Liam. It wasn't just the 3 guys that got hooked at half time. You could have taken off any 6 or 7 players, maybe more. It was a really poor team performance, Lawrence, and you're right to point out that, when they're breaking, Taylor does look completely out of position, but he's not the only one. 100% right with that. But again, from time to time when it happens, it's like you regroup. It galvanises Brendan Rodgers. He hates getting beat. And then we go out tonight, and obviously we can put that right. They'll be dying to go out there and put that right tonight. This is a Celtic state of mind. We talk about other aspects of Scottish football when they affect Celtic, and on the 16th of March, we do indeed play Rangers. And that's the segue. That is the flawless segue, and that's a link to discuss the fact that Brendan has seen off yet another contender in inverted commas, Lawrence. And I look at the situation at the moment, and he is constantly fielding questions, Brendan Rodgers, about Rangers. He's constantly fielding questions, and he's always as respectful as he possibly can be. Yesterday, gets asked a question about Clement, talks about he's always disappointed when a manager loses his job. But sometimes in his more bullish moments, Brendan, and I shared this yesterday, Liam, when I was sharing your blog on the socials, Brendan just gives it on both barrels, doesn't he? And he talks about the amount of managers that he's seen off, and he keeps getting told that they're coming and he's not seen it yet and all this kind of stuff. I like that. I like that about Brendan Rodgers, because otherwise you've got a group of pundits in front of him basically trying to skew the narrative towards Rangers, as if they are an equal in terms of a challenge to Celtic. And the last 25 years will tell you that that is not the case.
Listen, mate, fans talk about what's close to their heart, and that's all that media is doing. They're just talking about what's close to their heart. They're still in denial that the banter years hasn't happened. But I tell you what, I was surprised this weekend. There's a bit of a flip side. I never thought I'd see Rangers helping out the referees. It's normally the other way about. In a week where we should be talking about a ridiculous VAR decision and demanding to see images, Clement's been sacked after another bad result. Brendan's got the measure of the press, but I think that's probably why it's dying. They have no credibility outside the Rangers fans. And they tell Rangers fans what they want to hear. You've got a billionaire with wealth off the radar. You're going to have a hover pitch. It's going to be the 49ers at back. Well, it's not quite the 49ers. It's going to be somebody else. You're selling season tickets anytime soon. How your results bad? Your last 3 games, you get a dodgy VAR decision to get a last-minute penalty against Queen's Park. Hearts, there's an 18-yard camera in Edinburgh that couldn't see a two-handed shove in the back of Hearts forward in the Rangers penalty box.
That was shocking.
The same standard of camera can rule a ball being out the touchline, although no images produced as of yet. You're going, VAR's been doing him a favour, keeping Clement in a job. But listen, let's not forget, this is a guy that got 5 penalties in his first 6 games, and then went crazy when one didn't get awarded for him. So, was he a good coach? Probably he's been a good coach elsewhere. He's won things, there's no denying that. Was he ever going to bring Rangers that play in a level financial playing field? Saying that, not quite convinced, because the new tax story is broke, and there's some clubs that have been doing some dodgy tax things in Scotland. Would we be surprised that Rangers were amongst the clubs taking advantage of research and development tax breaks? Probably not. But this is what we know we're going to face. A Rangers with no money, media cheerleading them. When are they next going to win something?
It doesn't help them though,
isn't it?
It doesn't help them though. This is the thing, right? I mean, they can cheerlead all the like, right? Because there's a two-pronged thing here. The first one is their industry were very, very slow to get on to new media. They really were. And now, they're creating things that are masquerading as fan media just to try and continue with the audience that they once had. Liam and I have spoken about it in the past. There used to be a Scottish newspaper that sold 1 million copies on a Sunday. That will never happen again. But they were so slow to the party now with regards to new media and being able to have this dialogue. And by the way, and this is a completely different discussion, I do think that the legacy or the mainstream media are fighting back on that front in relation to some of the productions that are going out on YouTube, etc., and the way that they're using social media. They're probably 5 years late, but they have the budgets. They still have the budgets and the brand deals and the sponsorship, so they will continue to push a narrative. Of course they will. But it doesn't help. It doesn't help the club they're trying to help, Lawrence, because it brainwashes. This propaganda makes people believe, just if that takeover happens, or if this manager gets sacked, everything's going to be rosy. They are miles ahead of Celtic. Like years, decades ahead, behind Celtic rather. They are decades behind Celtic.
End of this season, we'll win another treble, most likely. And then we'll kick off the season, and the media pundits are going to be about 50% are going to go tipping Rangers for the league.
I know, there's no credibility to that.
On, you know what I mean?
It's based on nothing.
They've got a manager who had a less than 30% win rate with Alloa. I think he's the 10th most successful manager this century. They've got Neil McCann, who's I think a worse pundit than he was a manager, and I've got Al McGregor as goalkeeping coach, who's I think he likes a drink, famous for liking a drink with Alan Thompson up the Drake. So I don't know what he's done in goalkeeping coaching terms, but do you think that would they brought in just to sell season books? Do you think they're really worried about? Look, some of the Rangers fans are starting to see through this. It's starting to drop. Celtic's going to win another treble this year.
Do they ever see through it though? This is my point. I don't mind. They can continue on this car crash forevermore, as far as I'm concerned. I don't think enough of them do see through it. I think that they're on this. They still think they're on this.
They need this injection of staunchness, don't they? That they've just got, and then they went, "Oh, brilliant! I'll renew my season book." Barry will show them. He'll be in there showing them how to nut toilet doors, prepare for the game on the 16th of March.
All I'm looking towards is that game on the 16th of March at the moment. Liam, I'm going to throw this one over to you. I'm sure you've got a few bits to say about it. And I'm looking at a scenario where I remember the first time round watching a Brendan Rodgers team steamroller in, who thought they were our nearest challengers, Rangers. Steamroller them to the point we were going into games against Rangers thinking to ourselves, how much is it going to be? You know, there was no issue if we winning the game. Is it going to be 4 or 5 today, right? And there was a couple of occasions. There's, a moment where after 50 odd minutes, was it 5-0 up at that point, and you're thinking we could win 8-0 today. I don't think we truly put them to that sword. I'm not being funny here, Liam, right? But remember back in the day, the previous incumbents at Ibrox, right? They appointed Paul Le Guen, and the dressing room did not fit the culture of the management team, right? Now, he was a good manager.
One of the best Celtic fans chant ever, Paul Le Guen's going to win.
Aye, yeah, right. But the thing is, he came with a pedigree, right? He did. He came with a pedigree. He was on an upward trajectory as a coach, and they didn't accept him. Now, flip it. The dressing room now has a culture, and you're bringing in the old school, Liam, right? But the mix is the same. It's just flipped. It's the management team who obviously are old school, whereas back in those days, the dressing room were old school. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. And I think come the 16th of March, I think we could annihilate Rangers on the 16th of March. I'm looking towards that game, get the momentum up to that game, play the way we can. And by the way, I want revenge for Ibrox. We were rotten, and they absolutely pumped us that day. But everything else that's happened in and around that, we could really take them to the cleaners, and I would love to see it.
No, we will. I'm confident we will absolutely rip them apart next time we play them. But I think that to use common vernacular, they're clearly playing the staunch card with these appointments, right? Because there is a sizable group amongst their support. I don't know if it's a majority or not, because thankfully I don't spend enough time talking to them. But there's a majority who are like, we would rather be utter mince and have quote-unquote good Rangers men running the show than some bloody foreigner who doesn't know what he's doing. That's their words, not mine. They are actually happy to be utter garbage on the park as long as it's staunch men who are leading the show in their eyes.
As long as they get beat staunchly. They're happy with that.
That's it. I mean, literally. I mean, I remember when the first time they died back in 2012. I say first time because, let's face it, Armageddon 2 is coming. We all know it. It's just a matter of time. The first time they died, I remember they were talking about what were they going to do, when they rebuild and relaunch, whatever. Back before they'd adopted the new club, the same club myth, right? They were saying things like, all right, it's got to be all white Scottish Protestant players. We've got to sing the Billy Boys. It was all this nonsense, right? And what we're seeing now is that same regression. Because when they can't compete on the park, when they don't have the money, and they know that there's no way that money is incoming anytime soon, because even if that utter nonsense about the 49ers buying them was true, they can't put in the money legally that would be needed, because you can only spend a certain percentage of your turnover.
Yeah.
Right? So they can't do that. There is no way that they are going to get back to Celtic's level legitimately anytime soon. So the anger, the hate, the bile is all they've got. And actually, from a purely business point of view, those appointments by the Rangers board yesterday actually kind of make sense in a twisted kind of way. Because it's like, aye, we're still the same utter mince on the park, but it's people that you like who are leading the show. It's people like you who are in charge now. That's what they're selling to them. And they're buying it because they're as gullible as they've always been.
We could be a bit kinder to the Rangers board than Paddy over there who's made these appointments. Now, if a Celtic fan was to make the appointments with St Clement's going, who would you want in? Good chance we'd have picked these guys. But we could be a bit kinder to Paddy and say, look, you're getting them in because you think they were winners at Rangers. Problem is, they were only winners because you were cheating. You know, and that led to you dying, going busting, having to start a new club. So even if we're to be kind to them, going, yeah, you did win some trophies with you, all cheating aside. But they only won because they were cheating. So what are you going to do now? Because they only know how. Do you see that Brian Clough thing, you know, when he walks into Leeds? I hope Paddy's doing that to like Barry Ferguson, Candice now. All the top medals you've got.
I don't know.
Now, put them aside. You've won it by nothing but cheating.
Lawrence.
This is the new Rangers club. We're not going to cheat.
I don't know if you are in disguise Tam Selleck, but go and make that video. Go and make that video, mate, right? Use the AI, get it made, get it generated. It'll go viral.
Doing that would be great, mate, wouldn't it?
It would. And by the way, can I just say, right, we're football fans, first and foremost. We are Celtic fans. You are allowed to laugh at your challengers, your rivals, whatever you want to call them, right? So just absolutely live it up when it comes to the banter years. They are rolling on. It's like now that's what I call music. Liam, it just goes on forever. And this is year, God knows what, 14, something like that. Right, let's get your thoughts in on the happenings around Celtic. Wherever Taylor goes will be a downgrade, says Johnny Ryan. Many players leave Celtic and it's a downgrade. Even sometimes when they go and make more money, Johnny. For me, it's a downgrade. And, you know, it all comes down to what their ambitions are. I always remember Samaras talking about that. By the end of his career, he's got medals to show for playing at Celtic Park, and he could have, you know, stayed down in England and been a lot richer. Because remember, we signed him from Man City, who had bought him as a really up and coming player at that particular point. We've got Alpha 0964. That sounds like a CB radio handle. Remember them ones? Everybody had like their own handle. Aye, Schloop using his spell with us to showcase his talents elsewhere. You think so? We'd like him to stay, but the club's player profile may be an issue. You know what? I think that come the end of the season, because of the European endeavours, I think that Celtic will definitely be an option. Alpha, I think it will be in the top couple of options for him. Unless, and I don't think it will happen, unless a club from England want to buy him. At that age, I don't see that happening. I think he'll stay at Celtic. I don't think he'll go for the money to the States or to Saudi or somewhere else. Chris D. Bernabe went AWOL. Got done for drink driving. Luxalt was Luxalt and alone. Bolingoli ran away. Well, he'd done a lot more than that. Hardly challenged Taylor. Yeah, they did do all that, but you know, I think the point is that every single left back that's came to the Super Club, and some of pedigree, by the way, because you remember Luxalt, Liam, when we signed Luxalt from AC Milan, you're looking at that going, that was an ambitious kind of signing. You're thinking to yourself, this guy's going to boss it. And I remember in his first European game, there was a statistic about ball winning. No one had won the ball more in Europa League history than Diego Luxalt. Was that right? That season there was a game, there was a European game where that was a stat that came out. Diego Luxalt very quickly turned into the type of player he was playing alongside that season, which was very unfortunate. It appeared in the team of the tournament for Uruguay, didn't he, in the World Cup in the previous competition. Yeah, disappointed in all of the guys, to be honest with you, because we spent some good money on a couple of them and it didn't work out, and Greg Taylor did see them off. And it was the consistency, Liam. It was the fact that, you know, domestically, generally speaking, he stepped up. I think there's been a couple of occasions this season where I've questioned even that domestically, and that's a worry for me. But he might be unsettled. Lawrence is right. You know, sometimes, Liam, we look at these footballers and think they can't be unsettled. They're kind of like robotic. Well, of course they can.
Sometimes it's not even a conscious thing. It's, you know, I mean, like, take the example, right, of Matt O'Reilly round about January last year, he went through a wee dip in form, right? And we all know what a player he was, right? But he did have that dip in form, and it was probably because of that Atletico Madrid link. You know, it's not him down in tools or whatever. It's just human beings, their minds are naturally turned when there's something better to do. You know, I mean, Christ, I'm going through that right now, right? You know, I'm going to go full time with a blog in about 6 weeks' time, and I am spinning my heels in this job that I'm about to finish. I go in every day, and I'm like, I can't be bothered being here, you know. And so I totally get that. I get what that idea of your head being turned by things outside your control, and it's not necessarily your fault. So I don't think for a minute that Taylor's effort is off. I don't think his, you know, there's no essence of him like wanting to take the huff or whatever. I just think that naturally when players know their future is elsewhere, there is a subconscious drop off.
It's tough. It's tough for anybody to stay attuned to, and this is why I continually went on about Chris Ayer, because I think he was the guy from that group of players who wanted to leave the football club going into that 9 in a row season. He was the guy for me. He wasn't brilliant, he wasn't sensational, but he didn't down tools. You know, there was none of that demeanour. There was no lacklustre displays. There were poor displays, but not in the same kind of vein as an Edouard, for example. I mean, I remember a game, and I don't even like the term down in tools. I think it's more of a natural thing, Liam, whereby, you know, Ryan Christie, yet another ball went over the top, probably landed in the car park, and he just kind of shrugged his shoulders. Then he scored a goal, and he just shrugged his shoulders. He kind of checked out. So I do think it can happen with footballers. Lawrence, I don't
happen with footballers, mate. It's just, and you kind of highlighted it's 18 games till the new Glasgow derby. You know, Rangers footballers must know that the future doesn't lie at Poundland. I'm just wondering, do you think it would be cruel to kind of get a lettuce on an Acsom camera and see if Barry Ferguson sees out the season or the lettuce sees the season out? Because let's be honest, loses a few games, gets humiliated by Celtic. You think he'll see the season out?
Right, I'm going to take you back to that game. It was such a forgettable game. And very few of you, if any of you, have probably watched it back other than watching it live. But remember when John Kennedy was in charge of Celtic against Rangers, and they absolutely annihilated us, right? And it was horrible. It was, honestly, it was horrible to watch. I think we're in a kind of scenario going into that game in March where we are going to be flying. We are flying. I mean, that was just a blip. The Hibs thing is a blip, right? We're going to get back on track this evening. I'm confident of that. Flying going into that game, and I just think we could really do them some damage and put them back in their box, as Chris Sutton once said.
If we do that, mate, the staunch injection is for season book sales in April. So they might have injected that staunchness too early. Because if, say, Liam's saying 6 games to win the league, it could be as little as 3. And then we hammer them at Celtic Park. Season book sales might not be looking so staunch then.
It is. There's a massive part of this all about the PR aspect of it, Lawrence. There's no doubt about it. Anybody who's even with a passing interest observing Scottish football can see it for what it is. And going back to Liam's comment, Philippe Clement is a far better coach than all of the guys combined. Absolutely 100% agree with that. Even if you bring someone in, there's all these cliches that people drag out. Oh, he's a winner. It means nothing. It actually means nothing. That might be your mentality. Roy Keane was a winner. Rotten coach. Loads of footballers were winners. Alan Shearer was not a bad player. Terrible manager. It means nothing when you're a manager. It means absolutely nothing if you were a winner as a player, right? So I don't buy into that. Don't subscribe to that in the slightest. I've got no fears whatsoever. And whatever's happening over there again, let them get on with it. I'm just focusing on that 16th of March. And I think we need to exert a wee bit of feedback and a wee bit of revenge. Now, a big shout out to Jerry Taylor, who is still part of that, an important part of the Axon team. I don't know if any of you have followed him on YouTube, guys. Have any of you followed his channel on YouTube?
I've not, mate. I don't do a lot of YouTube other than this just now.
Well, YouTube is where it's at, of course. And Jerry's got his own channel, and I'm going to give him a big shout out because he achieved one of his ambitions. Now, this is the thing, Liam. You've got interests outside of Celtic. and I was watching your channel yesterday. You didn't respond to me because you were playing Power Rangers, and I made a joke. He was playing Power Rangers on his retro gaming.
Play a name like that.
You ignored my joke. It went down like a Led Zeppelin, right? So,
in fairness, I was asleep. I'd uploaded the video and went to bed. So,
oh, did you? I thought it was live, mate. I thought I was talking to you.
Mate, I was hopeful you're going to redeem yourself and say, in fairness, it's called something else.
No, I remember the cartoon or whatever it was, and there was a computer.
Mate, that never watched it.
There was a green character as well. Mate, there was a green character. Right. Anyway, the Daft Detectorist. Go and check out Jerry's channel. Go and check it out. He found something the other day that's been his ambition to find. So Jerry will be back. He's missing you all. He said he's missing everybody. So he will be back at some point when things settle down. Deck, you are in. Afternoon Axom, as always, from northern Sweden. That blows my mind.
Wonder is that where Helsingborg is? I'm not too sure. Is that northern Sweden? What's Deck doing over there?
Well, that's probably Declan McConville. He gets about. Let us know exactly where you are, Deck. I always love hearing where you're tuning in from. Henrik Malarson, you're back in.
Talk about people get about. I was the Martin O'Neill gig, Martin Stan Petrov, on Thursday. Met one of our viewers, James, who's just beaten the Big C. So a big hello to James, cracking to meet you on Thursday, and congratulations on beating cancer.
Fair play to you, and thanks for tuning in. Sean Farrell obviously has met someone as well. I'm going to bring him up in a minute. Henrik McLarsson, Wee Bernaby is the best left back in South America, and I think we've done some good business on him. Sean says, don't forget the shout out to Martin Smith from the pub Saturday. I wasn't in a pub, Sean. Maybe it was that you, Lawrence? Were you in a pub on Saturday?
Was in Gracie's, Sarrie Heed, Traders, Lynch's, Squirrel.
I knew it wouldn't be Liam. I knew Liam wouldn't be in a Glasgow boozer.
Back to Gracie's.
Couldn't quite afford the taxi fare.
No,
so
right.
For Martin Smith. And the big guy whose name I didn't get, who fits the smart meters for SSE. So saw him in Gracie's.
I tell you didn't have get about. Mo Sislak unlucky with luck. So I agree with that. I think it was a timing issue. I've heard quite a lot actually about Barkas in that season and his attitude, which was all wrong. Mo Sislak. So that's another discussion for another day. But it was never going to work with that guy. He just checked out. Talking about checking out, Liam, players who played with him have spoken about the way that he was not interested and he just wanted to go home. He was like, I'm out. Henrik McLarsson, there you go. I've already read that one out. Brown Warrior. Schlup is the Wanyama type number 6 we have been needing in Europe. I'll tell you something, Brown Warrior. It's a good point. He's not just coming in as a backup left back, gents. He can play all over the park. And that's one of the main reasons why I would bring him in. Even if he's on the bench, he gives you 3 options off that bench.
Yeah. But, I get it. We definitely need steel in the midfield, but who drops out for him? I think they should push probably Callum further forward and try Engels as the number 6. I think he's got the range of passing. He's definitely physical enough. We're going to have a number of games where the league's been won easily this year. We could give Kalmark a rest before the cup final, hopefully, and try Engels in there. But it's, if Schlup comes in, I think he's on 60, probably minimum 30. It's a lot. I get it covers a number of positions, but at the end of the day, he's a backup player.
But if you go out there and buy 3 backups for the 3 positions, that's the way I'm looking at it.
Yep.
I think
one position at a time, though, you know what I mean? So if the left back gets injured and your midfielder's injured, Schlupp's the backup. Oh, wait a minute, he's already the backup for him.
But it gives you the option to then mix
no, definitely gives you the option, mate. But it comes with a risk as well, doesn't it? So I think it definitely gives you the option.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm all for it from what I've seen. And I'd
love him to come in. I would absolutely love if he could do it.
I think he's a Brendan
type, steel in the midfield.
Definitely Brendan type player. Yeah. James Devine, does Liam remember the controversial decision involving Dyson Maeda when playing for Japan and the ball was ruled in by VAR by a slither? Sorry if this has been mentioned already. James, it doesn't matter if it's been mentioned. It's not been mentioned by you and it's not been discussed by Lawrence or Liam. So it's fine to bring this up. I think some people might have had their full of the VAR thing. People are saying yesterday, move on. I don't think you should move on. I think you need it to get better, Liam. You need to keep highlighting it as a football club. And I think Brendan Rodgers is taking us places that other managers haven't gone in terms of calling out the officials. And I'm glad he's doing it. I've said before, I've gave you my theory in relation to the fact the Celtic should have just bought VAR themselves and then used it in terms of evidence for future charges up at SFA Towers, wherever that is these days, because it is simply no good enough. And the big thing for me, and I keep going back to it, right? On-field decisions made, it can only be overturned if you can prove that there's been an error. And they can't prove that there's been an error. And Celtic have demanded, Liam, that they see the images and they hear the audio. I don't have an issue with that. I think the club needs to do that.
The thing is, I really don't understand why we can't just be like rugby or American football and have the audio broadcast within the stadium.
I know.
What have they got to hide?
Keep it transparent.
I think you understand why we can't. You know, you've got 3 full-time VAR officials all support the same club.
Aye, exactly. But that's what I mean, though. It's like if you've, you know, if it was all upfront and honest, even if you disagreed with the decision, you could say, well, at least I can see the basis as to why they've come to that decision. But this complete clandestine nonsense is just not going to. It's not going to wash. I've got my own pet theory about VAR, which again I talk about in the blog, and I liken it to a huffy teenager being made to tidy their room, right? So you tell the teenager, go and tidy your room, and they really don't want to do it. They don't want to do it. They can't be bothered. So they do the most lazy, half-arsed job of it. And eventually the parent just says, oh, F it, I'll do it myself, right? That's what's happening with VAR in Scotland. It is being mismanaged so badly. And I've seen this like in the last couple of days interacting with people on, you know, on the Acsom Facebook group and whatever. People are saying, just get rid of it. Now, I don't agree with that view, but I can understand it. I can understand why people feel it, because they're sick and tired of this nonsense and the time it takes up when we are talking about this stuff. I'd rather be talking about, you know, Celtic's game, but we have to talk about these things because they are in the sphere of what's going on with Celtic now because of these decisions that keep happening.
Yeah.
And again, I think they're deliberately mismanaging it so that more and more people are going to demand that it's removed. And eventually you get a Sweden scenario where the majority of fans want it banned. The authorities are seen to be giving the people what they want, but at the same time, it also removes any transparency. And they can just go back to the days of honest mistakes.
No, you're right. They go back to the status quo. And the thing with that as well, Liam, you mentioned about the broadcast, the transmissions live. Jim Orr, who generally appears every second Friday on Axom, he's spoken about the fan experience and how bad that is with regards to VAR. I always remember speaking to Andy Lynch when we were working on his autobiography. He spent the end of his career over in the States, and it was the kind of original NASL, where they really tried to give it the box office appeal. And it wasn't just bringing footballers from all over the world. You know, the famous names, Beckenbauer, Pelé, Bobby Moore, George Best, all went over to the NASL. But they also tried to really work on the fan experience as only the Americans could over there. It was all showbiz. So things like, you know, I remember being at a game, Scottish Cup final, where Edouard scored the winner against Hearts to clinch yet another treble. I think that was the day that Neil Lennon got the job permanently. I'd need to check because the trebles all merged into one for me. And the halftime entertainment, right, was they had a Celtic fan and a Hearts fan. And they stood at the dugout, and one ran that way and one ran that way, all the way around the park. And whoever got back won money. That was the halftime entertainment. It's a Scottish Cup final. Now, Andy was telling me that the entertainment that they used to have at the NASL was the Beach Boys would come on the stage and play live, or the Eagles would come on and play live. Liam, it was just different level. So there's other ways to make it part of the fan experience. And even though you might not agree with the decision, if they explain it and it's pretty clear what's happening in live time, I think that improves the fan experience as well. I would much rather do that than bin it. Because I agree with you, Liam. I think if you do the job so bad, it's like you never get picked in goals again if you're murder. It's the same, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you'll not pick him again. Right, get rid of VAR. It's not working. Well, it could work.
Listen, if you were started up saying, listen, is Liam aware of the decision in the Japanese World Cup game? Never mind, is Liam aware? Alan Muir would have been aware of it. Every referee in the world would have been aware of that. And that's why you can't judge it from there, because you don't get the right angle. You can't say definitively it's out or factually, because it's a factual decision they've made. It's not So this isn't an opinion. This is a factual decision they've made with the ball's been out. And as you said, there's no evidence yet that's factually correct. So you've got to wonder what Alan Muir's thought process here. I can only make this if it's a factual decision. I must have an image that clearly shows the ball being out. He's obviously aware of the Japanese game. Gary Neville, you'll have seen the tweets, does a great cover of it. The referees, I'm sure, cover that in their training.
Every time there's a highly publicised incident in football involving a decision, Lawrence, you're right. Everybody will be briefed on that because you don't want to be the next one for the high jump, right? I think it's the tin pot thing I was talking about yesterday is the fact that a Hibs vlogger had a better camera view than the SFA does. And that, for me, is absolutely unacceptable.
Listen, camera technology, they say we can't afford this, can't afford that. Look at the quality cameras in your mobile phones now compared to 10 years ago. The technology is not that there.
No.
You know, that's all they had in the stands. Right, can we line this up along the line? Well, I don't know, get spirit level or something. Who knows? But that's basically what we're asking for, is a camera along the goal line. Cameras themselves aren't there. You know, they work wirelessly as well. It doesn't even need to be wired. Crazy that they don't have that. You know, it'll be interesting what comes out. And I'm wondering, did Rangers sack Clement to take the heat off the referees? You know, the referees have been doing favour recently. Have they sacked Clement? The other question that springs to mind is, with that management team, who's going to present sports scene now?
I know. By the way,
the mysteries of Scottish football, mate.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few others that they can roll out. Scales will come in for Trusty, says Johnny Ryan. Talking about tonight, Johnny. Wouldn't surprise me, actually. Trusty, for me, has come on leaps and bounds since that night at Dens Park, where he was criticised by the gaffer. But I agree with Lawrence. I don't think he was great at the weekend as well. And it's games like that you really need to step up, isn't it? So Scales will come in for Trusty. It's about time that Scales got another game anyway. It wouldn't surprise me. David Campbell, you're watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. We're over 32,000 on there. And hit the notifications bell. There's loads more coming this year from Acsom. Hit the likes, guys. Boost the channel, says David. Thanks for that, mate. There's another thing I want to bring up, and that is the fact that I was fully expecting, just because of the historical nature in which they deal with these things, Liam, that UEFA would sanction Celtic after the fans, the Green Brigade, showed a banner that said, "Show Israel the red card against Bayern Munich." There will be no sanctions. That's a positive, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to get into geopolitics, but if we're allowed to show solidarity with Ukraine, why can't we show solidarity with Palestine? It's the same thing. Have all or nothing. If you're going to allow some political protests, it can't just be the ones that you agree with.
I always feel that in that, because I agree 100% with Liam, I think that the club probably should have been stronger in backing our own fans in that respect, because that is your argument. That is your case, isn't it? Going to the Beaks if you're called up and say, well, you know, it's hypocritical if you're going to ban our fans or fine the football club for this display, yet you were pushing that display not that long ago. So I totally agree with you, Liam. Lawrence?
I think you've got a better argument. Why are Israel playing in European football?
No, I know.
Was it a pariah state in Africa? If it is, you shouldn't allow them to get away with being a pariah state that implement apartheid. You shouldn't, because let's be honest, it should be down to Africa. Should they allow Israel to compete in their competition? You know, South Africa, you'll remember the dates when they were banned from taking part in international sport. I think the English cricket team broke the ban at one point, didn't they? But that's part of the political pressure to say, look, you cannot operate an apartheid state. UEFA's allowing them to escape that pressure by saying, that's okay for you to play in Europe. It doesn't really matter what you do. As long as nobody's got the temerity to point out a game, this is what's going on. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep on with your apartheid. But, you know, it's a decision for UEFA, but suggest it shouldn't be. FIFA should be looking at it and going, listen, they're not part of Europe, they're part of Africa. And then, you know, they should, if any competition they should play in is the African competitions, if that federation allows them.
That's not going to happen, no, Lawrence, unfortunately. I don't disagree with you, but it's not going to happen, is it?
35 years ago, the Asian Confederation said they wouldn't accept them because basically nobody else in that region wanted anything to do with them because of the policies of their government. I would just add one more thing on that, right? I don't want to get off on a tangent, but I'm slightly different in my view on this for Lawrence, in the sense that I don't like countries being banned because of what their politicians do, right? I don't think Russia should be banned. I don't think Israel should be banned for the same reason. I think that the actions of a government, as vile as they might be, are nothing to do with what a football team does. Now, if you want to say to them, right, you can't fly your flag, you can't sing your anthem, fine. Don't let them do anything that actively promotes the country. But unless those players are proven to be actually complicit in war crimes, I don't think they should be banned from going to the World Cup or going to the Euros or whatever. I don't think it's fair to them. You know,
you could extend that argument to sanctions. You know, we're not going to supply you with goods. All right, well, that punishes people in the country, the general populace.
No, I know.
But so that would be the same argument there. Well, we shouldn't have sanctions because it's probably punishing people who aren't actually part of the government making these decisions. I mean, either way, you're doing it to bring political pressure to bear from inside the country, aren't you? You're trying to say to the populace, look, this is what happens when you let a government run you like this. And again, it's unfair on the players, but I don't think you're going to have a fair decision all the way around.
And in terms of the Green Brigade, I think it would have been unfair on them because they're the scapegoats every single time they make a stand for that particular cause. And I don't think the club fills me with any confidence that they're actually ever going to back up the Green Brigade. They're just going to allow UEFA to do as they have done. And on this occasion, no sanction. Barry O'Sullivan, you're in on the YouTube. Looking forward to your reaction to Saturday's game, going for a 4-0 home win. I'm going to get the guys' view on a prediction this evening just in a moment. And there he is, Jungle Lion. It's not a bulletin without a comment from you. Think we all know Celtic's best 11 now. I think so. After tonight, basically one game a week, pick your best team. That's always the motto. The Urban Culture, you're in as well. Good day, fellow Acsom addicts. What a time to be alive. It is, the banter years. And I'm pretty sure that will be covered in Liam's blog at some point. Pat Dolan, it is only our early season away form that is keeping us where we are. Last 8 aways, we've shipped 10 points when Sevco have shipped 9. Celtic need to get real playing away from home. And then Monty, Alan Muir should never be involved in another Celtic fixture. Listen, they've got previous for that, but not necessarily for Celtic fixtures. Apparently, it's John Beaton who will be refereeing tonight's game. Thanks for that, George.
That's great news.
Yeah, fantastic. And Craig Gordon, Matthew Anderson, Mitchell Frame. There are players, I think, who are in development, Craig. And I think that loan deals have been done with regards to, bringing them back to the football club. And they wouldn't have had the first team experience that they've had, if they hadn't gone out and got that elsewhere. And I think these tie-ins with other teams like, the Austrians, Admira Wacker, for example, we need more of that until such times as we've got a better situation in Scotland. A couple of other things, guys. We, it's been announced, we'll be playing Cork City on the 8th of July. Said many, many times we need to make a trip to Ireland an annual event, no matter how strong the team is. Let's take Celtic to Ireland. So it's great to see that happening on the 8th of July. Big shout out to Hilly, a friend of mine now who I met at the Bayern Munich game. It was
Hilly from St Margaret's.
Yes,
club in Dublin. Mate, I met a King of Finglas in Traders. Funny enough, Mark McCabe. He's talking about Hilly because he was in with some of the St Margaret's boys. They came back after the game.
Amazing. Lawrence, you never failed to amaze me. Honestly, see, if something happens in a Glasgow Boozer, you know about it. Hilly, St Margaret's, you're spot on. And he set the club up, named it after his sister who had tragically passed away. So big shout out to Hilly. You tune in every day when you're walking your dog. You might be talking to your dog, walking your dog down the beach. And we do appreciate all the support for Axom from Ireland, and the club, I hope, also appreciate all the support that you give them as well. Great to see Celtic going over there. There was a brilliant blog you wrote just the other day, just to drop that one in again, Liam, about Johan Mjällby's debut, which was a 5-1 trouncing of Rangers. Probably more famous for the 2 goals by Lubo Moravcik, but Mjällby signed the day before and was thrown right into the team by Joseph Wenklos, played really well. Celtic were tremendous. Tony Warner was the goalie, of course. Did Matt Burchell come off the bench and score, I believe?
That's why the Celtic fan called this place paradise, was the line after Butcher scores, sorry, by the commentator.
You've watched it time and time again on an
Don't know
old
why,
dusty VHS. Absolutely
Five-star
right.
boys, Five-Star Boys might be the video. But
Front cover had Vida Reseth on it. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah, it's behind me somewhere. Johan Marby, brilliant. 33 tickets left for Thursday night. You've got 2 days to get your ticket, and if you're listening in, there is a promotion running at the moment. Axom 1888 at checkout will get you a discount. Let's pack it out. Now, thanks everybody for getting involved today. It's been good fun. We've gone from politics to Clermont and everything else Celtic related. But I do want a prediction for tonight, Lawrence Conley.
I'm going to go with 5-0, mate. I think we'll be 3 up first half and we'll add another 2 in the second.
Nice. Liam?
I think we're going to win 3-1. And I'll just add that I hope that Palestinian fella gets the goal for Aberdeen, because what a reception he'll get from the Green Brigade if he does.
He would.
Is that Daba or whatever?
He would. He absolutely would. Listen, thanks everybody for getting involved. I'll be back this evening, 30 minutes before kickoff, and I'll give you my prediction then. Everybody else, keep liking the channel, keep subscribing to the channel, and join us again tonight on A Celtic State of Mind.